After the Organising Board chapter, I hope that you have a very integrated, all-embracive concept of how a group interacts. Well, all right. Now let's define one more concept having to do with an organisation, one that has to do with the communication system. An organisation is composed of terminals and communication lines related by a common purpose. L. Ron Hubbard. Right away, let's define the words terminal and communication line. Terminal. A point that receives, relays, and sends communication. Communication line. The route along which a communication travels from one person to another. L. Ron Hubbard. Here's an illustration of the above. We have an organisation, and an organisation are terminals and communication lines united by a common purpose. This is a look at an organisation from the point of view of a communication system. By the way, you actually already know a lot about group goals from the administrative scale chapter. So, let's take a look at what moves on these communication lines from one terminal to another, using the three-basket system and the communication center. What types of messages travel on these lines? Let's look at the three main types of communications. The first and the most obvious is a written message. Let's see what the attributes of a written message, which we will call a regular communication, are. Without fail, it has to have to whom, from whom, the date, the content itself, and the signature. That's nothing new for you. Here is one small clarification about writing any communication, including this type of regular communication. Just imagine that this sheet has to go through various terminals, not just one. Let's say that it has to be coordinated with the lawyer or the accountant or the marketing expert or someone else. So in such a case, when we indicate whom it's going to at the top, we indicate several terminals, 3 in this case. How do we show where the message has to go in the first place? By using an arrow. And the person who receives this communication does something with it. His own part of the work related to this cycle of action, and then he crosses out the arrow and puts a new one into the next terminal where it has to go next. That's easy, isn't it? In this case, we don't have to rewrite anything, and we use the same form of the same message. The next type of communications is an order, or a directive, or a task to be done. So, if the first type of communication travels from terminal to terminal, and it doesn't matter if it's an executive of a junior, on any post or in any position on the org board, one can use such a communication and direct it to another terminal. When we're talking about tasks to do, or an order, or a directive, this is always from a senior to a junior. The components of such an order, of the second type of communication, are identical to regular communications. We have to say to whom, from whom. The only thing is that we have to specify for sure what type of a communication it is. Let's say it's an order. Then we have to put the content of the order itself and also the signature and the date. Alright, these two types of communication are all clear and simple, but the third one we have to talk more about. Before we go into the third type of communication, I want to say this much. This communication is so important and so effective that if you figure it out well for yourselves and understand it and will apply it And if that's the only datum that you take away from this whole chapter on communication, I will guarantee you that your life and your business will change for the better. Without a doubt. Alright, let me prove it to you. Let's take a look at this type of communication of the third category and figure out what it really is. So, this type of communication is called a CSW, and let's define this word right away. A CSW means completed staff work. It's an assembled package of information on any given situation, plan, or emergency forwarded, sufficiently complete to require only an approved or disapproved. L. Ron Hubbard. Note really carefully here. So, a CSW, like any communication of course, has the usual attributes: to whom, from whom, the date, and it's labelled with 3 letters, CSW. And then we have sort of a standard pattern that we use to write it. And namely, that's 3 components. The situation, more data, and the solution. And then the person finishes it off with the phrase, "This is okay." Never let a junior say, "Is this okay?" Always require the junior to state or initial, "This is okay," on all work, actions, or projects. L. Ron Hubbard. And you have to write in 2 options: approved and disapproved, and naturally the signature of the person. Pay attention to the fact that in the definition it said that this type of communication was to have complete enough data that the executive would only have to put his signature where he deems necessary, approved or disapproved, and that's it. The key thing in this communication is that the staff member writing the CSW is the one proposing the solution. So you see that it's the staff member and not the executive who has to propose and put forward his own solution to the executive. And this solution should only be one solution, not a whole heap of different solutions. You know, I have once seen a CSW with my own 2 eyes that went like this. The company has low income. That was the situation. The more data section said in it, "We need to advertise." And the solution was, "Give us money." Here's an interesting point that I would like to make. You can actually tell a lot about a person from how he writes and how he approves a written CSW. You can say a lot about both the staff member and the boss of a company. Alright, this CSW about "give us money," what can you say about it? What is the competence and responsibility level of this person who wrote this? You see, if an executive gets this CSW, he instantly has to question, what sort of advertisement, how much money, etc. So, you can say definitely that when you have such a CSW, it's an incomplete CSW and doesn't have enough information in it, or not enough data given for the executive to simply approve or disapprove. Quite simple. The main criteria of the CSW, well written, is the reaction of the person approving it. He reads it, looks at it, and doesn't have any questions regarding it, and simply signs it as approved or disapproved. And then it's really a completed staff work. Interesting, isn't it? Right now we're going to do one exercise here, which is going to help you practice in writing a CSW. and you can get a better grasp on the importance and significance of this type of a communication. Let's do the exercise.